Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Veeam Club Talk. I'm very honored and happy today to be in this chat together with my guest, Kang. So before I pass to him for his introduction, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Keith from Veeam. I'm the System Engineering Manager and I run the Southeast Asia and Korea market. Right. Of course, today we are going to talk about the title on the cloud migration opportunities and challenges for the hospitality industry. And of course, it's a better opportunity now that we could talk to someone that's already in the industry for a very long time. So Kang, so probably I'll pass over to Kang to let him introduce himself, and then we can start off this topic of discussion. Kang, over to you.
Yes, hello Keith, hello everyone. Very happy to be in this online chat together. So my name is Kang. I'm currently Chief Technology Architect at Accor, which is the French hospitality group. Maybe I will present Accor a little bit later. So based in Singapore, and I'm overseeing our middle and long-term IT strategy within Accor.
Oh, that's great. That's great, Kat. Thanks for coming on the session together with myself. So probably could you just share with us what's the current business model at Core, right? Because I guess to the perspective of the wider audience, maybe a lot of us do not know what's the current business model of Accor. So probably you could do
Yes.
a short sharing of Accor.
Yeah, definitively. So, Accor, so today we operate about 5,000 hotels across the world, across, I would say, almost 40 brands, which goes from economic brands like Ibis that you may know to luxury brands like Raffles, Fairmont, Swiss Hotel, and we have a whole range of brands. What is particular, I would say, in hospitality is that Accor, as well as other leading hospitality groups, we are in what is called an asset-light approach, meaning that we do not own the hotel. They are owned by hotel owners, which can be either, I would say, real estate companies, funds, or even individuals. And we provide a model where we do either franchise model, where we provide the brands, but also I would say the technical stack for the hotels to operate, or for hotel owners who don't have the hospitality expertise, we can go deeper and manage the hotel itself, meaning that we manage the staff on behalf of the hotel owners. But at the end, we are in what we call the B2B2C model, business to business to consumers, meaning that the customers of Accor are the hotel owners, and they will pay Accor a fee for us to operate or to bring our hospitality expertise. And the guest, as yourself, if you go into one of on the hotels that we operate, you will be the guest of the hotel owner, the customer of the hotel owners, and us. In the background, we operate the hotel.
That's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing this perspective. And probably we could jump into our first topic, right? Where we do understand that there's a few business domain in Echo currently, and within Echo, if we focus on the first business domain, in terms of the hybrid cloud management for your hotel partners, that's probably using on-premise solution versus when you onboard the new hotel partners that you could be hosting the Accor solution platform on the public cloud. So probably you could share with us these two models where the customers that is transiting to the cloud model versus for the newer one that they doesn't have any on-premise infrastructure today, and they're setting up new hotels. They could straight away embark on the cloud. Probably you could share some of the vision, some of the challenges, and probably some of the benefits versus these two models that we are talking about?
Right. Yes. Completely. So in our vision today is what we call hotel in the cloud. I would say that historically, hospitality is still quite traditional, meaning that when you go into a hotel, in many cases, you will still find a server room, where in that server room you would have all the materials, hardware on premise that would enable the hotel to work. So that would be systems like what we call a PMS, for property management system. So the main system which is going to enable the hotel to register the guests, to register all the activities inside. That would be the point of sale, POS, that you can have for hotels which have restaurants or spa and so forth, to record also the interaction with the guest. So today, I would say most of the hotels are still very built with an on-premise approach, where you have all this, which is stored in the hotel itself. So it's more client-server approach, where you install the server. So it means that you have to manage all the upgrades of the servers from a software perspective, but also a hardware perspective. You have to manage the end of life with people who will be on site to manage all the IT operations and so forth. That one is what we classically know in terms of setup. And then today, what we are pushing forward, and it's much easier, obviously, when you open a new hotel, is to move into the cloud. So our vision on the cloud, especially for the new hotels that we are opening, is to say, let's leverage on all the technologies that we have today on the cloud, so that we can reduce the footprint of hardware infrastructure within the hotel itself, and help to manage all of that centrally, and take the pain out of all the topic of ensuring that you have the latest upgrade available, that when your hardware is coming end of life, it means that you need to invest again to replace the hardware. So it's kind of a cost for the hotel owner and so forth. And obviously, much easier to do it for new hotels, and for current hotels, that's currently where we are building kind of migration path with the hotel owners, depending on the current state of their hardware. Our envision is to offer a portal, kind of a single portal online on the cloud, so that all the applications that I was mentioning would be accessed from there with the single sign-on for the hotel staff to ensure an optimal productivity. And that portal will be managed by Accor, so that everything is offered on the cloud for the hotel.
Right, thanks. So probably I'll just add on here, where you spoke about the challenges to manage the on-premise platform, right? And of course, probably one of the key benefits that you host the system in the public cloud that adheres to your vision, where you spoke about hotel in the cloud vision, right? I guess one of the key part will be the hardware agnostic part of things, and of course, it brings standardization within the organization of Accor. Right, then you would be able to not worry so much of aging infrastructure. Whenever there's a tech refresh of any hardware, I guess the hardware agnostic part is a lot more important, right? As you don't have to worry about the different brands of hardware, right? So very much this also adheres to what Veeam is, because Veeam is a 100% software, and of course the key thing that we want to our customers to get out of this, right, is to be having that flexibility to choose whatever hardware that you want any point of time, right? Which I guess this is one of the key benefits as well when we host a system within the public cloud infrastructure. Thank you very much. I think if we move on to the next topic of your second business domain, where we look at your internal IT infrastructure, where I understand you're using Microsoft Office 365 today. Probably you want to share, your story of when you joined Accor, and how's the usage and the transition of using Office 365, and probably some importance of the data within this Office 365 of this transition.
Yeah, yeah. So I joined Accor, I would say just a few weeks before COVID-19, back in early 2020. And so what was interesting is that when I joined, we already had Office 365 rolled out across all Accor corporate offices in the world. But as a matter of fact, as it often happens, in large organizations, the colleagues were still kind of very email based at that time. I think it's because of the habits that people used to have. So we were starting to wonder, okay, how could we push more the use of Office 365, MS Teams for more collaboration? And then it turned out that about 2-3 months later, COVID-19 started to explode across the world, and all of a sudden, I think all of us around this virtual table, we were pushed at home. Colleagues were put at home from overnight, and that's where it kind of helped to foster the change and accelerate all the changes in terms of using more all the Office 365 capabilities. What we did was to hold some virtual virtual fireside chat to demonstrate, to show to our colleagues what you could do with all the tools like MS Teams, like SharePoint Online, how to collaborate in terms of discussions, so that you have less email, you have more history of the conversation between people. How do you use all the features about versioning of documents and so forth? And so during 2020, we could see a significant usage in terms of statistics in the usage of MS Teams and all the online collaboration features of Office 365, and it was quite interesting indeed. In terms of data, indeed, it also meant that we moved from the traditional file server within the office into a much more data stored on the cloud into Office 365 environments, which is also an interesting thing, because it means that we have also less things to manage internally in terms of hardware, storage, etc. But that it also kind of put a lot of, I would say, a lot of criticality on the data that we now today have on the cloud, because all the knowledge management of the teams, whether they are marketing, development, sales, etc., are now moving much more on the cloud.
Right. Thanks. I guess the importance of data of course, when you use Office 365 along with this transition, the key is to your data, right? So I'll probably share a little bit on the Office 365 shared responsibility model, and probably you could have a chat around this, just to hear your thoughts as a consumer today, right? When you're using Office 365, what's your perspective of them? Are they just providing you an infrastructure, or are they also responsible for your data as well? What's your perspective?
Well, I would say that in terms of governance, the way that we see that is that we own the data, and we are responsible as Accor IT actually to make sure that the data are protected, I would say, based on what Office 365 is offering in terms of encryption, but also in terms of backup and so forth. So we rely, I would say, we rely a lot but we rely a lot, obviously, on the offer of Office 365.
Correct. So I think you're actually right, Khan, right? Because Office 365, what they are doing, or what they are giving or providing is really a platform. And within that platform, they of course give you HA solution. They promise certain SLA within Office 365. But the most important part is the data is still the customer's responsibility. So it comes to data protection, recovery. A lot of it actually holds on within the customers itself. And that leads us to the third section part of it, right? Which is why data is important, especially when it comes to data recovery. So probably perhaps you want to share some of the challenges when it comes to recovery, be it complexity, be it a skill set requirement. And perhaps I could also add on a little bit on how do we ensure that data can be restored when needed.
Yeah. So I was saying, so if we come back to the environment of the hotels, so in our traditional setup with the client server setup with on-premise systems within the hotel, the topic of I would say the backup and restore of the data for the hotel, I would say has often been, sometimes the poor parent, as often when we talk about backup and recovery, is that it's something that usually no one thinks that it is important unless the day you have a big problem and then you realize, a bit like insurance, that you should have a good system. And so for on-premise system, it does require some, some specific operations to always make sure that the backup tapes are stored in a different location, not in the server room, because if the server room is flooded or inundated, then you can lose everything. But more importantly, it was also a topic of recovery, meaning that at some point when you lose the systems, some hotels may realize that unfortunately they did not do the backup properly, or that actually the restore does not happen after the accident, and can take sometimes, it could take in some cases a few days or a few weeks to completely come up back to speed, so having more impact on the productivity. With cloud technologies, we do see that it's changing a lot I would say the situation, and in very positive ways, because obviously all the operations are much more automated in terms of backupping the system. The data are stored very safely because it's on the cloud and it can be replicated in different places. And I believe that also the restore is also much easier because also much more automated, since things will not be done through manual scripting, but through more automated procedures.
Right. So, yep, I think, of course, we could store our backups in the cloud today, right? That's definitely a lot more easier comparing to what we have from a tape restore perspective. So I just want to bring back a point. How do we ensure data can be restored when needed? Like what Kang mentioned, it's like an insurance plan. Even every day when we look at backup, the dashboard actually shows that it's successful. I think what's important is having the technology to be able to test the recovery on a daily basis, right? Automated by our software. That could be also something very crucial and important, because we don't want to get into a situation 6 months down the road, we say that we need to restore a piece of data, but we realize we cannot do so. But again, we cannot turn back the clock and say that we want to look at the data again or the backup again to see what went wrong. So using the software to automate this process of recovery, ensuring that it puts up to your respective virtual machines, your respective database or application, and then giving you an email notification to ensure that this is able to restore successfully. I think that gives you a peace of mind in terms of data protection, right? So let's wrap up where we talk about how software technology vendor today is helping the hospitality industry, especially impacted by the COVID situation globally, right? And of course, within Singapore, there's some measures that's been kicked on just yesterday. So Bobby, you want to explain briefly what's the COVID-19 impact to the industry within hospitality?
Yeah. So when COVID-19 hit last year, obviously, especially in the hospitality, it has been a huge impact because from overnight hotels were either closed or they didn't have any guests anymore. So huge loss of revenues for hotels. I would say we had some good relationships with some software vendors who kind of contributed also to alleviate the pain and make things a bit lighter for the hotel owners. But overall, I would say that especially with the on-premise approach, it was hard also because even though there was no business anymore, you were already in a model where you have paid for the hardware for X years. You already invested the capex from a hotel perspective, or also you from a license perspective. There were more license booked on the course of 3 years basis. So whether you have guests or not, it doesn't make the difference. And on that part, it was difficult in terms of cost savings for the hotel owners, even though we, as Accor, we pushed hard to try to negotiate as much as possible. Going forward, I think that the future, especially with SaaS models, would be, from my point of view, that software vendors should think about much more dynamic pricing depending on usage. So typically, that's what we see today for companies using infrastructure or service like AWS. Everybody is more used to pay for what you use. And so I think that even from solutions which are more end users, software vendors should look at this model. I often take the example of a company called Slack, which is about the same as MS Teams. And what is quite interesting is that every month they price, they bill customers depending on the number of active users who are using Slack on a monthly basis, which I think has a virtue because even internally in Slack, they think about their product and how to make a product which is more engaging so that the customers will have a value in it. And definitely, I think that's something that we should see in the software industry going forward.
Thanks. I think definitely, I guess a lot of software company, including Veeam, right? We do see this point as well. Thus, we have the perpetual software model, like what Kang mentioned. When you buy the hardware, we base on socket license, and then we license for the customer for a period of 3 years or 5 years, and very much customer owns the licenses, right? So in the trend of Veeam, what we are also moving now forward, right, is really a subscription model. Meaning to say that the customer has a choice to subscribe to a year of subscription minimally, right? And then of course they could continue on the subscription if they want to extend the usage of the software, because in that subscription model, customer does not own the licenses. Of course, moving forward, we do also have this consumption model, which is really from a service provider view. Just like what Kang has mentioned, we base on what the workloads that we are protecting today. And of course, we do a charge to our partners that's using this rental model. And of course, when it goes back to the end user, they're also only charging what the end user is protecting today. So within that consumption model, I think that will definitely bring a lot more flexibility and also more advantages to the customer today, especially in such COVID situation, right? Where we want to make sure we only charge based on what is being protected, which should be the more fair approach that's there. So thank you very much, Kang. I think for this session, it has been a great session talking to you. Any more points you wanted to add on before we close off the session?
And also, thank you very much for inviting me. It was a pleasure to have this discussion together. And
Yep.
So looking forward to receive more guests into hotels with which would be cloud enabled at some point to have a better experience for everyone.
Sure, definitely. Thank you again. Thank you, Khan. Thank you so much, everyone.